The council chamber stretched wide and tall, filled with beings from 100 different worlds. Vrathos stood at the center platform, his 4 arms holding data tablets while his eye stalks scanned the assembled representatives. He had done this presentation 20 times before, and it never changed much. The quarterly threat assessment is complete, Vrathos announced, his translator device converting his clicks and whistles into standard galactic speech. I will now review the classifications for developing civilizations in Sector 7. He pulled up a holographic display. Dozens of planets rotated slowly in the air, each marked with colored symbols. Red meant high threat. Yellow meant caution. Green meant low risk. Earth glowed green. The human civilization remains at Level 2 development, Vrathos explained. They have achieved basic space travel, using primitive chemical rockets. They have established a small research station on their moon and recently placed a handful of robots on their neighboring planet. Their political structure remains fragmented into approximately 200 separate nations. No unified military command exists. Their weapons technology, while dangerous to themselves, poses no threat to Federation members. One of the council members, a crystalline being named Shelthra, pulsed with light. What about their nuclear capabilities? Concerning for a developing world, Vrathos admitted. However, they have not used such weapons in 80 of their years. Our models predict they will either destroy themselves within the next century or mature into a standard diplomatic civilization. Either way, they remain low risk to the Federation. The Council accepted his report without debate. Earth was just another primitive world, stumbling its way toward the stars. Nothing special, nothing dangerous. Vrathos had no idea how wrong he was. 3 months later and several light years away, Captain Jiho Park sat in the command chair of the cargo vessel Chionsa. The ship was old, bought secondhand from a Felixian trader who had probably cheated them on the price. The engines made a grinding noise that the mechanic kept promising to fix. The artificial gravity flickered in grid section C every Tuesday. But she flew, and she was his. Captain, we're approaching Europa Station, his navigator called out. ETA, 40 minutes. Jiho nodded, reviewing the manifest on his tablet. Medical supplies, replacement parts, and 300 frozen pizzas. Europa Station paid well for Earth food. Apparently, the miners there got tired of nutrition paste after a few months. Captain. The communications officer, a young woman named Suji, suddenly sat up straight. I'm picking up a distress signal. Federation frequency. Jiho frowned. Federation ships rarely came to this part of space. Put it through. Static filled the bridge. Then a desperate voice broke through. This is Research Station Tyvos. We are under attack. Repeat. We are under attack. Veklar Syndicate ships have breached our shields. We have minimal defensive capabilities. Any ships in range, please assist. The crew looked at Jiho. He knew what they were thinking. Federation protocols said civilian ships should avoid combat situations. Call for help and stay away. Let the military handle it. But Jiho had served in the Korean Navy before becoming a cargo captain. He knew what it meant when someone called for help. Suji, how far? He asked. 20 minutes, if we divert now. What about Europa Station? The medical supplies can wait a few hours, Captain. Jiho made his decision. Change course. Battle stations. His crew scrambled. Battle stations on a cargo ship meant locking down the cargo bay, securing loose items, and hoping the shields held. They had exactly 2 defensive weapons, both designed to blast space debris, not enemy ships. When they arrived at Research Station Tivos, 3 Veklar ships were circling the damaged station like sharks. The station's shields flickered weakly. Jiho could see scorch marks across its hull. They've spotted us, Suji reported. One ship is breaking off to intercept. Jiho studied his screens. The Veklar ship was faster, better armed, and built for combat. The Chionsa was a flying warehouse with engines. In any normal fight, they would lose in minutes. Good thing Jiho didn't believe in normal fights. Release cargo containers 7 through 12, he ordered. Sir? His first officer asked. Do it. Set them to tumble, randomly. The containers ejected from the Chionsa's cargo bay, each one as large as a small house. They tumbled through space, creating a floating obstacle course between the cargo ship and the attacking Veklar vessel. The Veklar captain, confident in his superior ship, tried to simply blast through the containers. The first explosion filled space with medical equipment and frozen pizzas. The second container held replacement parts for mining equipment, heavy metal components that scattered like shrapnel. While the Veklar ship dodged debris, Jiho did something unexpected. He flew straight at them. Captain! His navigator shouted. Trust me, Jiho said calmly. At the last second, he vented atmosphere from the port side. The explosive decompression spun the Chionsa in a wild corkscrew that no computer could predict because it was barely controlled chaos. The Veklar ship's automated weapons tried to track them and failed. The Chionsa scraped past the enemy vessel, close enough that Jiho could see the other ship's hull plating. As they passed, his engineer did something brilliant. She activated their magnetic cargo clamps, the ones they used to grab containers in space. The clamps locked onto the Veklar ship's engine housing. Full thrust, Jiho commanded. The Chionsa's engines roared to life, dragging the attached Veklar ship in a direction it definitely did not want to go. The enemy ship's autopilot went crazy trying to compensate. Systems overloaded. Warning lights flashed across the Veklar bridge. Then Jiho's communications officer, Suji, did something that would later become famous across the galaxy. She hacked into the Veklar ship's computer. How? The first officer asked, watching her work. Same way I hacked my brother's computer when I was 12, Suji muttered, her fingers flying across her keyboard. Try every password until something works. These idiots used Veklar 1 as their admin password. 30 seconds later, the Veklar ship's engines shut down completely. Jiho released the magnetic clamps, and the enemy vessel drifted helplessly in space. The other two Veklar ships, seeing their companion disabled by a cargo hauler using frozen pizza as a weapon, decided this wasn't worth the trouble. They grabbed their disabled friend and retreated. Jiho helped the research station make temporary repairs. The Federation scientists stared at him like he was some kind of wizard. How did you do that? The station commander asked. He was a Felixian, all fur and wide eyes. Jiho shrugged. Video games, mostly. Lots of video games. When Vrathos received the report 3 days later, he read it 5 times. Then he read it again. A primitive human cargo vessel had defeated a Veklar raider using cargo containers, random thrust maneuvers, and something the report called video game logic. He pulled up Earth's file. Low risk. Level 2 civilization. Primitive technology. For the first time in his 30-year career as a xenobiologist, Vrathos wondered if the classification system was missing something important. He began making plans for a proper audit. Something was very wrong with the Earth assessment, and he needed to find out what. Nexith had conducted 47 planetary audits in her career. She knew the process by heart. Arrive, review the data, interview locals, file the report, and move on. Earth would be no different. She was wrong. The human they assigned to help her was named Dr. Hana Shin. She was young for a human, maybe 30 of their years, with dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She met Nexith at the landing facility in a city called Seoul, with a smile that seemed far too amused. Welcome to Earth, Auditor Nexith, Hana said in perfect galactic standard. I hope you're ready for an interesting week. End quote. Nexith's scales rippled with mild annoyance. I have reviewed thousands of species, Doctor. I doubt humans will surprise me. Hana's smile grew wider. The first surprise came during the initial briefing. Nexith had expected to meet with Earth's unified government. Instead, she sat in a conference room with representatives from 8 different nations, all arguing about who should speak first. I apologize for the confusion, Hana said, not sounding apologetic at all. Earth doesn't have a unified government. We have the United Nations, which is more of a discussion forum. Actual power is divided among about 200 sovereign nations. Nexith blinked her 3 eyelids in sequence, a sign of deep confusion. But you have achieved space travel. How can you coordinate space exploration without a unified government? We argue a lot, Hana admitted. But we make it work. The second surprise came when Nexith reviewed Earth's military capabilities. According to the files, Earth had minimal unified defense forces. This was technically true, but as Hana explained, each nation maintained its own military. Let me understand, Nexith said slowly. You have 200 separate military organizations. On one planet. With 7 billion people. Give or take, Hana confirmed. And you have not destroyed yourselves? We came close a few times, Hana said cheerfully. But we got better at talking instead of shooting. Mostly. Nexith spent an entire day reviewing Earth's military history. What she found horrified her. 2 massive global wars within a single century. Countless smaller conflicts. Revolutions. Civil wars. Humans fighting humans over resources, ideology, territory, and sometimes just because they were angry. Your species is constantly at war with itself, Nexith observed. Was, Hana corrected. We're much better now. We haven't had a major war in almost 80 years. 80 years is nothing, Hana shrugged. For us, it's progress. But the truly disturbing part came when Nexith examined what humans did during peacetime. They didn't stop preparing for war. They just called it something else. What is this? Nexith asked, pointing to a file about something called the Olympics. International sports competition, Hana explained. Every 4 years, nations send their best athletes to compete against each other. You turn physical combat into entertainment? Not combat exactly, more like organized competition. Running, swimming, throwing things. We give out medals. Nexith discovered that humans competed in everything. Sports, business, academics, art, even cooking. They ranked themselves constantly. Who was fastest, strongest, smartest, richest? They created elaborate systems just to determine who was better at arbitrary tasks. This is your culture? Nexith asked. Constant competition? It keeps us sharp, Hana said. Also, it's fun. The audit continued. Nexith visited military bases, research facilities, and schools. The schools were particularly disturbing. Children, Nexith said, watching a group of human youngsters play in a courtyard. Your children are playing war. Hana looked at the kids running around with toy weapons, making explosion sounds with their mouths. It's just pretend. They're having fun. They are simulating combat. Well, yes. Kids play. Sometimes they play house. Sometimes they play war. It's normal. Endaka, Nexith thought about her own species. Young ones were kept in carefully controlled environments, taught cooperation and harmony. The idea of children pretending to fight each other was unthinkable. She examined Earth's entertainment next. Movies, books, video games. At least 70% involved conflict of some kind. Humans fighting aliens, humans fighting each other, humans fighting nature, humans fighting their own creations. Even your stories are about war. Nexith noted. Not all of them, Hana protested. We have romance stories too. Nexith pulled up a file. This romance story you recommended. The 2 main characters meet during a zombie apocalypse. Okay, bad example. The breaking point came on the 5th day. Nexith was reviewing historical records when she found something that made her scales stand on end. You have nuclear weapons, she said quietly. Yes, Hana confirmed. Enough to destroy your own planet. Several times over, technically. And you have not used them. Not since 1945. We learned that lesson pretty quickly. Nexith stood up, her tail lashing in agitation. Do you understand what you are telling me? You are a species that evolved as persistence predators. You hunt by chasing prey until it collapses from exhaustion. You never give up. You compete with each other constantly, driving innovation and adaptation. You teach your children that conflict is normal. You arm yourselves with world-ending weapons. And somehow, through sheer stubborn diplomacy, you have avoided destroying yourselves for 80 years. Hana nodded. That sounds about right. This is insane. Is it? Hana asked calmly. Every challenge makes us stronger. Every competition drives us to improve. We've turned our aggressive instincts into productive channels. We compete in sports instead of territory. We race to build better technology instead of bigger armies. Well, sometimes bigger armies too, but less than before. Nexith sat down heavily. Your planet is classified as low risk. I know. That classification is based on your technology level and military capability. I know. It completely misses the point. Hana smiled. I know. Nexith spent the next 2 days compiling her report. She documented everything. The competitive nature, the military history, the cultural acceptance of conflict as entertainment, the fact that humans had literally evolved to never give up on a hunt. On her last day, Hana took her to a small restaurant in Seoul. They sat at a low table, eating something called bibimbap. Question. Nexith said, if humans are so competitive, so aggressive, so persistent, why have you not expanded aggressively into space? Hana thought about it while chewing. Because we're also curious. Space is big and interesting. There's so much to learn, so much to see. Why would we waste time fighting when we could be exploring? But if someone threatened you? Hana's expression changed. The friendly smile faded, replaced by something harder. Then we'd remind them why persistence predators are the most dangerous hunters in nature. We don't stop. We don't quit. And we remember every lesson we learn. Nexith felt a chill run through her scales. In that moment, she understood. Earth wasn't low risk because humans were weak or primitive. Earth was low risk because humans had chosen not to be dangerous. Yet, will you change the classification? Hana asked. I will recommend certain modifications, Nexith said carefully, with additional notations, such as, Nexith met the human's eyes. Do not provoke. Hana's smile returned, warm and friendly once more. Good choice. That evening, Nexith transmitted her report to the Galactic Council. She recommended Earth remain classified as low risk, but added extensive notes about human psychology, competitive nature, and persistence hunting instincts. In her conclusion, she wrote, humans are not dangerous because of what they have built. They are dangerous because of what they refuse to accept. I strongly recommend the Federation maintain positive relations with this species. They are far more formidable than their technology suggests. The report was filed and largely ignored. After all, Earth was just another primitive world. For now. Taeho Choi checked his weapon for the 3rd time. Old habits from his military days. Check everything twice. Then, check it again. The plasma pistol hummed softly as he verified the charge. Next to him, his team of 5 other humans ran through their own pre-mission routines. Seems like overkill, commented Kyung, the youngest member of the team. We're protecting diplomats, not invading a planet. Taeho shrugged. Federation pays well for human security. They know we actually stay awake during our shifts. The job was simple enough. A Federation diplomatic convoy was traveling through contested space to negotiate with a neutral station. Ambassador Yuna Lee represented Earth's interests in the talks. 6 ships total, mostly diplomats and support staff. The Federation had hired a standard security company for protection, plus Taeho's team as additional guards for the human ambassador. 2 hours until we reach the neutral zone, the convoy commander announced over the comm system. All security personnel remain alert. Tejo settled into the routine of watching monitors and walking patrols. Boring work. But boring was good. Boring meant nothing went wrong. Then, the alarms started screaming. Contact! Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. The panic in the pilot's voice was clear. Krethix Empire signatures. Tejo's blood went cold. The Krethix Empire was one of the major powers in this region. Aggressive, militaristic, and not particularly friendly to the Federation, but they usually avoided direct confrontation. This was unusual. All ships, this is Krethix Commander Voth. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Comply, and you will not be harmed. Tejo ran to the bridge. The main screen showed 6 Krethix warships surrounding the convoy. They were big, armed, and definitely serious. The Federation security commander, a Pelthian named Grex, looked defeated already. We cannot fight 6 warships. Standard protocol is to surrender and await ransom negotiations. Surrender? Tejo asked. It is the logical choice. The Federation will negotiate our release. No one needs to die. And if they don't want ransom, Grex's tentacles quivered. The Krethix always want ransom. It is how this works. Tejo had a bad feeling. Something was off about this whole situation. But he was just a contractor. The Federation was in charge. The boarding began within minutes. Krethix soldiers, tall and armored, marched through the ships. The Federation security forces laid down their weapons without resistance. It was all very civilized. Until the Krethix reached Ambassador Yuna Lee's ship, Tejo and his team stood in the corridor outside the ambassador's quarters. The Krethix boarding leader, a massive soldier in black armor, pointed at them. You, humans, drop your weapons. Tejo looked at his team. They looked back at him. He thought about his training, about the promises he'd made, about the fact that he was responsible for the ambassador's safety. No, he said. The Krethix soldiers froze. Apparently, no one had said no to them in a while. Drop your weapons or we will open fire, the boarding leader repeated. You can try, Tejo said calmly. But we're standing in front of the ambassador's door. If shooting starts, you'll kill her. That defeats the purpose of your mission. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to back up, we're going to stay here, and nobody has to die today. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then, the Krethix leader made a gesture, and his soldiers raised their weapons. Tejo smiled. It was not a nice smile. What happened next became the subject of military analysis across 36 star systems. The humans didn't fight like Federation soldiers. They didn't hold positions or follow standard tactics. Instead, they turned the ship itself into a weapon. When the Krethix opened fire, Tejo's team had already moved. They knew the ship's layout better than the boarders. They used service corridors, maintenance shafts, and ventilation systems. They turned off gravity in sections, vented atmosphere in others, and generally made the ship as hostile as possible. Kyung, who had been a champion gamer before joining security, reprogrammed the ship's automated systems. Doors locked and unlocked randomly. Lights flickered. The air circulation system started making sounds that resembled human screaming. Psychological warfare, Tejo explained to a confused Ambassador Yuna, who was safe in a reinforced panic room. Make them scared. Scared people make mistakes. The Krethix soldiers, trained for honorable combat, found themselves fighting shadows. Every corner might hide a human. Every door might be a trap. The humans used improvised weapons, everything from fire extinguishers to maintenance tools. This is not standard combat, the Krethix boarding leader shouted into his comm. We're not standard soldiers, Tejo replied over the ship's intercom. I learned to fight in the streets of Busan. My team comes from all over Earth. We don't follow your rules. 8 hours into the boarding, the Krethix had secured most of the other ships, but were still fighting on the ambassador's vessel. Their casualties were mounting. Not deaths, necessarily, but injuries. Humans were disturbingly good at disabling opponents without killing them, which somehow made it worse. "Where did you train?" the Krethix commander demanded during a brief ceasefire. "Train?" Teho laughed. "I grew up poor. You learn to be creative when you have nothing. And I played a lot of StarCraft. You know, video games? Strategy. Resource management. Adapting to unexpected situations." The Krethix commander had no idea what StarCraft was, but he was beginning to understand that he had made a terrible mistake. 12 hours in, Teho's team was still fighting. They were exhausted, running low on supplies, and outnumbered 20-1. But they had not surrendered. Inside the panic room, Ambassador Yuna Lee was conducting negotiations via Secure.com. While her security team fought, she was busy being a diplomat. "The situation is simple," she told the Federation Council. "Your security forces surrendered without protecting me. That's a breach of contract. I want concessions." She also contacted the Krethix High Command directly. "Your soldiers attacked a diplomatic convoy. That's a violation of 17 different treaties. Unless you want the entire Federation to know you can't control your military, I suggest we negotiate." 16 hours into the incident, an agreement was reached. The Krethix would withdraw. The Federation would overlook the attack in exchange for trade concessions. Ambassador Yuna secured several favorable terms for Earth in the process. The Krethix boarding leader stood in the corridor, staring at Teho and his battered team. "You fought for 16 hours. We'd have fought for 16 more," Teho said. "Why?" "It was hopeless." "Hopeless?" Teho smiled tiredly. "We were protecting someone who needed protecting. That's not hopeless. That's the job." The Krethix soldiers withdrew, many of them limping. They had secured 5 ships easily. One ship full of humans had cost them more casualties than the other 5 combined. When they returned to their command ship, the boarding leader filed his report. At the end, he added a personal note. "Recommend we avoid future conflicts with humans. They do not surrender. They do not tire. They use tactics that are borderline insane, but disturbingly effective. Classification as low risk is dangerously misleading." The incident went viral across the Galactic Information Network. Footage from the ship's cameras showed humans fighting with creativity and determination that seemed impossible. Within days, everyone knew about the human security team that fought for 16 hours against impossible odds. Recruiters started showing up on Earth, offering jobs to human security contractors. The pay was excellent. Ambassador Yuna returned to Earth as a hero. She had turned a hostage situation into a diplomatic victory. When reporters asked how she stayed calm while fighting raged outside, she shrugged. "I trusted my security team. They're human. We don't quit. We toter. End quit." Teho and his team became minor celebrities. Military analysts studied their tactics. The phrase, "video game logic," entered galactic military vocabulary, though no one quite understood what it meant. And somewhere in a Federation office, someone pulled up Earth's classification file. Low risk. They stared at it for a long time, then added a single word to the notes. Asterisk. Vrathos had seen enough reports. Reading about humans was one thing. Understanding them required direct observation. That was why he was now aboard the exploration vessel Mugunghwa, 3 months into a survey mission that was supposed to take 6 weeks. Humans, he had learned, did not stick to schedules. Captain Sora Kim ran her ship with casual efficiency that made Vrathos nervous. She sat in the command chair with her feet propped up on the console, drinking something called coffee from a metal cup covered in dents. "Morning, Vrathos," she said cheerfully. "Sleep okay?" Vrathos's species did not sleep in the human sense, but he had learned that correcting humans on such things was pointless. "I rested adequately, Captain. What is our status?" "Same as yesterday. Scanning this sector. Looking for anything interesting." Sora gestured at the main screen, showing empty space and distant stars. "Pretty boring so far." "Number. scanning this sector. The Mugunghwa was a small ship, only 12 crew members. Besides Sora, there was Donghyun Yang, the engineer, Minji Kwan the linguist, Hyunwoo Nam the pilot, and several others. They were all human, all civilian, and all completely casual about procedures that would have Federation crews filing reports in triplicate. "Captain," Hyunwoo called from the pilot station. "I'm picking up something weird." "Weird how?" "Big weird. Really big." Hyunwoo's fingers danced across his controls. "Looks like an artificial structure. Massive. Definitely not natural." "Hyunwoo." Sora's feet came off the console. "Show me." The screen changed, displaying a structure that made Vrathos's eye stalks widen. It was enormous. A curved section of what looked like metal and crystal, easily the size of a small moon. Parts of it were dark and broken, but other sections still glowed with faint light. "That's a Dyson sphere fragment," Vrathos breathed. "Or part of one. These are ancient, built by civilizations that died out millions of years ago." "Cool," Sora said. "Let's check it out." "Captain, Federation protocol requires that we mark this location and report it to the Archaeological Division. They will send a proper research team." Sora looked at him like he had suggested they ignore it completely. "Vrathos, we're already here. We have time. Why wait for someone else to have all the fun?" "Because this is a priceless historical artifact that requires careful study by trained experts." "We'll be careful," Sora promised. Then she grinned. "Mostly." 2 hours later, Vrathos found himself in an environmental suit, floating through the corridors of the ancient structure. This was absolutely against protocol. This was dangerous. This was amazing, he whispered, looking at walls covered in alien writing that had not been read in eons. Minji floated past him, her suit camera recording everything. "This language is similar to the progenitor scripts we found in the Vega sector. Give me a few hours, and I should have a basic translation matrix." "A few hours?" Vrathos asked. "Federation linguists spend years on such things." "Yeah, but they don't treat it like a puzzle game," Minji said absently, already working on her tablet. "I used to do cryptography puzzles for fun. This is just a really complicated code." Deeper into the structure, Dongyun was examining an enormous machine that had been dead for millennia. It was easily 50 meters tall, covered in conduits and panels that meant nothing to Vrathos. "Can you determine its function?" Vrathos asked. "It's a reactor," Dongyun said confidently. "See these flow patterns? Energy generation. Probably powered the whole section." "How can you possibly know that?" Donghyun shrugged, his suit making the gesture awkward. "Because it makes sense. Plus, it looks like the nuclear reactor I worked on back on Earth. Just, bigger and more alien. You cannot possibly compare an ancient alien reactor to human technology. Watch me." Donghyun pulled out a toolkit that looked disturbingly primitive. "I'm going to try to turn it on." "Crowned. Round 8s. Absolutely not. The energy release could destroy the entire structure, or it could give us power and lights." Dongyun countered. "Only one way to find out. 2-3. 2-3. 2-3. 2-3. 2-3. Vrathos tried to argue, but Dongyun was already working. The human used tools, duct tape, and what he called educated guessing to bypass ancient alien control systems. It should not have worked. Ancient. It defied all logic. 15 minutes later, lights flickered on throughout the section. The reactor hummed to life. "How?" Vrathos demanded. "How?" "Duct tape, prayer, and spite," Dongyun said happily. "The holy trinity of engineering." "Oh?" Meanwhile, Hyunwoo was piloting the Mugunghwa through a debris field near the structure. The gravitational forces were chaotic, pulling in multiple directions. Federation computers had calculated the safe flight path at a cautious crawl. Hyunwoo ignored the computers and flew by feel. "This is insane," the Felixian science officer shouted. "The gravitational shear will tear us apart." "Nah," Hyunwoo said, his hands steady on the controls. "I can feel it. Just need to ride the currents, like surfing." "You ever surf?" "I do not know what that is." "Your loss." "Hold on, this part gets bumpy." The ship twisted and dove through space in ways that made Vrathos's stomach turn. But they made it through, without a scratch. After 3 days of exploration, Minji called everyone to the central chamber of the structure. She had been working non-stop on the translation, fueled by coffee and determination. "I've got it," she announced. "Most of it. Anyway. This place has a message." She activated a holographic display. Ancient text appeared, followed by Minji's translation. "To those who find this, we were the architects. We built these spheres to harvest the power of stars. We thought ourselves masters of the universe. We were wrong. Argang. Act 3. Argang. Argang." Vrathos felt cold. "What happened to them?" Minji continued reading. "We competed among ourselves, as was our nature. Each faction built larger spheres, claimed more stars. Our greatest achievement became our downfall. We turned our competitive instincts outward and consumed entire sectors in our expansion." The message continued, describing a civilization that had destroyed itself through unchecked aggression. But the final warning made everyone silent. Beware species that evolve through endless competition with themselves. Such species may achieve great things, but they carry a seed of danger. They will eventually turn that competitive instinct outward. When they do, they become unstoppable. Sora looked at Vrathos. "They're talking about species like us, aren't they?" Vrathos could not speak for a moment. The warning was millions of years old, but it described humanity perfectly. A species that competed constantly, pushed themselves to achieve the impossible, and refused to accept limitations. "Yes," he finally said. "They are warning about species like yours. So what do we do?" It was Minji who answered, still reading the ancient text. "The architects say that such species can go 2 ways. Either they destroy themselves and everything around them, or they learn to channel their competitive nature into productive purposes. Exploration, creation, building, instead of destroying." "Which path did they choose?" Sora asked quietly. Minji gestured at the dead structure around them. "They chose wrong." The crew was silent on the flight back to the Mugunghwa. Vrathos watched them work, saw the way they approached every problem with creativity and determination. He saw how they competed with each other in friendly ways, pushing each other to be better. That night, Sora found Vrathos in the observation deck, staring at the stars. "You're thinking about the warning," she said. "Yes. Wondering if we'll end up like them?" Vrathos turned to look at her. "Your species is exactly what the architects warned about. You compete constantly. You never accept impossibility. You push boundaries that other species respect. You are dangerous." "True," Sora agreed. "But we're also curious. We're explorers. We want to see what's out there, learn new things, meet new people. That curiosity balances our competitive nature." "For now," Vrathos said. "But the architects thought the same thing." Sora smiled. "Maybe. But they forgot something important. Competition doesn't have to be destructive. When humans compete, we make each other better. We raise the bar. We inspire each other to achieve more. That's not a curse. That's a gift. And if someone threatens you, if someone attacks Earth," the smile faded, "then we'll remember why persistence predators are the most dangerous hunters in nature. We'll remind them that humanity has been fighting itself for thousands of years, and we've gotten very good at it. But that's only if they attack us first." Vrathos understood now. Earth was classified as low risk, not because humans were weak, but because they had chosen to be peaceful. They had turned their competitive instincts inward competing with themselves rather than conquering others. But the potential was there. The seed of danger the architects warned about. Humanity could go either way. The question was, which path would they choose? Looking at Sora, at her crew, at the way humans approached the universe with curiosity and determination, Vrathos thought he knew the answer. But he also knew he needed to make sure the Galactic Federation understood the truth about humanity. They were not low risk because they were harmless. They were low risk because they had not yet decided to become dangerous. The Veklar Syndicate had studied the reports. Earth was classified as low risk. The human civilization had minimal space presence, primitive technology, and fragmented political structure. Luna Station, the human moon base, would be an easy target. Valuable supplies, advanced Federation technology gifted to the humans, and hostages worth good ransom money. It should have been simple. Syndicate Commander Vrex assembled his fleet of 15 ships, more than enough to overwhelm the station's basic defenses. He sent the standard warning message, expecting immediate surrender. Luna Station, this is the Veklar Syndicate. Power down your defenses and prepare to transfer all valuables. Comply, and no one will be harmed. The response came from someone who introduced himself as Commander Junho Han of the Earth Defense Initiative. Veklar Syndicate, this is Luna Station. We decline your offer. Leave now or face consequences. Vrex laughed. Humans and their bravado. You have 10 defense platforms and perhaps 24 security personnel. We have 15 warships. Be reasonable. There was a pause. Then Junho spoke again, his voice calm. I'll say this once more. Leave now. This is your only warning. Vrex cut the transmission and ordered the attack. The first surprise came when the defense platforms opened fire with unexpected accuracy. Veklar shields held, but the targeting was too good for automated systems. Humans were manually controlling them, adjusting for each ship's movement. They are not using standard targeting algorithms, his tactical officer reported. They are predicting our movements. Then move unpredictably, Vrex ordered. But the humans adapted faster than his ships could change tactics. It was like they were inside his head, knowing what he would do before he did it. What Vrex did not know was that Junho had assembled every gamer, programmer, and tactical enthusiast he could find on Luna. They treated the defense like a real-time strategy game, coordinating through voice chat and shared screens. Raider Group 3 is breaking left, someone called out, shifting fire to compensate. Watch the flankers. They're trying to sneak around Grid 7. Got them. Missiles away. The second surprise came when Luna Station itself started moving. Not the whole station, but sections of it. Junho had ordered all non-essential modules to detach and drift, creating a field of debris that made approaching the station dangerous. They are destroying their own base, Vrex's tactical officer shouted. No. Vrex realized. They are using it as a weapon. Cargo containers, fuel pods, and construction materials floated in space, turning the area around Luna into an obstacle course. Veklar ships had to slow down, maneuver carefully, or risk collisions. That was when the civilian ships arrived. Commander, we have multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace. Signature analysis shows civilian vessels, cargo haulers, passenger ships, even a pleasure yacht. Vrex pulled up the tactical display. 40 ships had just appeared, all broadcasting human identification codes. They were not military vessels, but they were there. At the head of the civilian fleet was the Chionsa, Captain Jiho Park's cargo ship, the same ship that had defeated a Veklar raider 3 months ago using frozen pizza. Attention Veklar Syndicate, Jiho's voice came over open channels. You are threatening our home. We cannot allow that. You are civilian ships, Vrex transmitted back. We're volunteers, Jiho replied. Earth doesn't have a unified military command. But we have something better. We have people who care. The civilian fleet spread out, each ship carrying whatever weapons their crews had cobbled together. Mining lasers, industrial cutting torches. Some had simply loaded their cargo bays with rocks to throw. It should have been a joke. Civilian ships against Veklar warships, but humans did not fight like other species. A mining ship called the Baekdu rammed a Veklar raider at full speed, its reinforced hull crumpling the lighter combat vessel. The crew had evacuated to escape pods first, letting their ship become a missile. A passenger liner used its powerful communication array to jam Veklar targeting systems, broadcasting white noise across every frequency. The pleasure yacht, improbably, had jury-rigged torpedo launchers using parts from a Federation weapons dealer who asked no questions. "This is insane," Vrex shouted. "They are destroying themselves to fight us." His tactical officer looked terrified. "Commander, they are not trying to win. They are trying to make us lose." It was true. The humans could not defeat 15 Veklar warships, but they could make the battle so costly, so difficult, so dangerous, that winning was not worth the price. Back on Luna, Junho coordinated the defense with cold efficiency. He had served in the Republic of Korea Army before joining the Defense Force. He understood warfare. More importantly, he understood that sometimes you win by making your enemy quit. All civilian vessels, maintain harassment patterns. Don't engage directly. Stay mobile. Make them chase you. "Commander Han," his second officer said quietly, "we are losing ships. The miners from Baekdu are in escape pods. The passenger liner just lost its main power." "I know," Junho said, his jaw tight. "But they volunteered. They knew the risks." 4 hours into the battle, Vrex realized he was going to lose. Not because the humans were stronger, but because they would not stop. Every ship he destroyed was replaced by 2 more volunteers. The civilian fleet had grown to over 60 ships now, with more arriving every hour. Messages from Earth showed millions of people watching the battle on screens, cheering every human victory, mourning every loss. Ships were launching from Earth, desperate to join the fight. The entire planet had mobilized. "Sir, we need to withdraw," his tactical officer urged. "We have lost 4 ships and taken heavy damage to 6 more. The profit from this raid is not worth the cost." Vrex stared at the tactical display. Luna Station was still there, damaged but functional. The human fleet surrounded it like angry bees protecting their hive. He had made a terrible mistake. "All ships, retreat," he ordered. "Full speed, get us out of here." As the Veklar fleet limped away, Junho broadcast a message on all channels. It was not a threat or a boast. It was simple, fact. To anyone watching, Earth is our home. We don't have the best technology. We don't have the biggest military. But we have something more important. We have each other, and we will defend what is ours. The message was received by millions of beings across the galaxy. News networks replayed the footage of civilian ships ramming military vessels. Analysts tried to explain how an inferior force had won through sheer determination. But those who understood humans were not surprised. In his office on the Federation homeworld, Vrathos watched the battle recordings for the 7th time. Then he opened his report file and began to type. His report was direct and clear. He recommended Earth's classification be changed from low risk to conditional risk, with the designation, "Do not provoke." In his analysis, he wrote, "After extensive study and direct observation, I have determined that the current classification system fails to accurately assess the human species. Humans are not dangerous because of their technology. They are dangerous because of their nature. Humans evolved as persistence predators. They hunt by never giving up. This instinct extends to every aspect of their civilization. They compete constantly, pushing each other to greater achievements. They refuse to accept defeat, even when defeat is logical. Most importantly, humans are a social species with strong pack bonds. They will sacrifice themselves for each other without hesitation. They will fight impossible battles to protect their community. They turn setbacks into motivation and defeat into lessons. The human civilization has chosen cooperation over conquest. They channel their competitive nature into productive purposes. They explore rather than invade. They build rather than destroy. But this is a choice, not a limitation. If threatened, if provoked, if attacked, humans will remember that they are predators. They will remember that they have been fighting each other for thousands of years and have learned every lesson that warfare can teach. I recommend in the strongest possible terms that the Federation maintain peaceful relations with Earth. Do not mistake their choice of peace for weakness. Do not confuse their primitive technology with lack of capability. Do not provoke them. Humans are not dangerous because of what they have built. They are dangerous because of what they refuse to accept: defeat, impossibility, or the loss of what they love. Earth remains low risk for one reason only. Humanity has chosen not to be our enemy. The galaxy should pray. They never change their minds. The Galactic Council reviewed the report in emergency session. The battle at Luna had been broadcast across thousands of worlds. Everyone had seen what happened when humans were pushed. The vote was unanimous. Earth's classification was officially changed to conditional risk, with the notation, "Do not provoke." Additional recommendations were made: increase trade with Earth, offer cultural exchanges, establish strong diplomatic ties. Make sure humanity felt welcomed in the galactic community, because the alternative was making them feel threatened. And nobody wanted to see what happened then. On Earth, life continued much as before. The volunteers who had fought at Luna returned to their normal jobs. Captain Jiho went back to hauling cargo. Commander Junho filed his after-action reports and started planning better defenses. Dr. Hana Shin read Vrathos's report when it was declassified 3 months later. She sent him a message through official channels. "Took you long enough to figure it out. Welcome to humanity. We're just getting started." Vrathos read the message and felt something like hope. The humans were just beginning their journey to the stars. They had so much potential. The question was, what would they do with it? He thought about the warning from the architects, about species that competed with themselves, about the choice between destruction and creation, looking at humanity, at their curiosity and determination, at their capacity for both violence and compassion. Vrathos believed they would choose wisely, but he also made sure the Federation knew the truth. Humans were friends only as long as you did not threaten what they loved, and that was a lesson the galaxy would never forget. Luna Station became a symbol, the place where humanity proved it would fight for its home. Visitors came from across the galaxy to see it, to hear the stories, to understand what happened when you underestimated humans. In the wreckage of one Veklar ship, they found a message scrawled on the hull by a human volunteer. 4 simple words that captured everything about their species: "We do not surrender." And the galaxy learned to remember that.